DC Multiverse!
How's it going, super friends? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Brad, the DC Universe Geek, for those of you who may be new here, and today we're going to have a look at 4 different DC Multiverse action figures from McFarlane Toys. Today we're going to jam together Dark Flash, Scarecrow, Batrocitus, and Static Shock. Each of these figures comes complete with a trading card, which as usual is a clone of the image on the back of the box, and some unique to the character accessories. A lantern and some extra fists for Batrocitus, some lightning for Dark Flash, some lightning hand blast effects, and, well, this thing for Static Shock, and, okay, well, I lied. Scarecrow doesn't come with any accessories. Let's have a look at each of these figures individually, starting with Static Shock. Admittedly a character that I don't know nearly enough about. I know he started off in Milestone Comics and then made his way to the DC Universe proper. I believe he did some time on Young Justice or the Teen Titans or something like that, and is basically in a lot of ways just like a smaller, younger version of Black Lightning. At least that's how I see him. In hand, a very interesting looking character indeed though. This fella does seem to have a few more paint apps than we're used to seeing on most McFarlane figures these days, because all of the yellow on the trench coat, well, that's all been painted on there. And the same thing with the yellow lines on the body and the emblem on his chest. That's all been painted. The cuffs around his wrist here, the white trim around the back. The face also has pretty tidy paint applications, whether it's on his goggles, his lips, or the side of his face there, or the shading that they've put inside of his hair. I think they've done a pretty good job with the paint applications. Like these lines right here on his jacket, they're actually pretty crisp. There's not a lot of paint slop on this figure. His boots and his knee pads, well, they're both molded in the yellow plastic that they're supposed to be, along with his fists. They're also molded in yellow plastic. His trench coat, well, that's actually a nice, soft rubber. This is nice and easy to move out of the way when you want to get his legs into a pose. So really, let's look at his articulation and test that. The head, it's on a ball joint, that little peg there. Not bad. That's actually pretty good. The torso isn't too great, just because it's really tight where it joins, but you know, there's some, like, it's not a terrible range of motion. And the same thing down here for the waist. You do have his pants that kind of go over top, as you can see, or the diaper, or the, you know, this area right here. So it will get in the way a little bit. The rubber's going to want to push the body back, but nah, it's all right. I'm satisfied with that. We have the rounded hinge, as usual, and the bicep swivel. You're going to get pretty much almost a T, full rounded there. Same thing with the bicep, full round. You've got your double jointed elbow and your hinge right here on the wrist with your fist there. Not bad. Then you've got your groin. We know what that does. He gets... that's not a bad amount. Could be better outwards. Always could be better outwards, but not terrible. You got your double jointed knees, and they crunch up nicely, and your ankles with the toe. Yep, that's pretty much what we're used to. So all in all, not a bad figure. I definitely need to learn more about him, and I will point out when we look at the trading card up close that, well, you'll notice that this is not the same version of the character at all. And I kind of like the one on the trading card better. Well, we'll go right to these accessories that come with him. These little lightning bits right here, they actually loosely clip onto his hands. And when I say loosely, I mean, like, it actually is very loosely. Like, oh sure, now they're going to make me out to be a liar. Look at that. Okay, so you can see how wiggly they are, right? Maybe I'm not putting these on properly, but I'm assuming that this is probably how they go. And then, of course, there's the, this thing. As much as I can gather, this is some kind of hovering or flotation device that he uses. Just based on the pictures that I've seen, it is nice that both sides actually have the sculpted detail. Yeah, I like this. This is pretty cool, and it doubles as a stand. So as I said, overall, not a terrible figure. I really do like this guy. I kind of wish that we got the other version that is on the trading card, but you know what? I'll take it. Okay, and now let's look at Grandma Scarecrow. Why do I call him Grandma Scarecrow? Well, because he looks like someone's old homeless grandma who's wandering the streets and doesn't know where to call home? I don't know. It's all the weird blankets and stuff that are hanging down that makes me... okay, I'm not gonna lie. Not a super fan of this design. I feel like something like this probably would have hit home harder, but it's definitely an interesting take on the character. The face sculpt is actually not bad. Like, it is an interesting look for Scarecrow. If you get up close, you can actually see that there's, you know, the frowny mouth and the big googly orange eyes. Makes him look kind of like an insect. And then down here, that's actually the gas mask portion. Like, it's not terrible. It's really... I'm not a huge fan of the weird straw hat that they've got him in. Yeah, not feeling it. And also the excessive amount of, like, raggedy, blankety, poncho-y rags that they've put him in. Like, the colors really work well together, and the twigs out the back, that's kind of a nice touch, I suppose. This figure probably could have used a lot more paint applications. Although his pants are pretty much perfect in comparison to the source material from Fear State, I will say the one thing that they definitely got wrong is that he doesn't actually wear this green color in Fear State. This is actually because of the light reflecting off of him that is green in his layer. It's actually just a regular old brownish color Scarecrow suit. So I'm not sure if maybe Todd's team didn't know that, didn't understand that or something, but he's not actually supposed to be fluorescent green. You know, you could get away with this color. This reddish color, but this should not be fluorescent green. That's for sure. If you buy this figure, you will find that he's actually fairly articulated for something that is... oh, whoopsies, I ripped his head clean off. Why do I always do that? Just rip off their extremities. You will find that he's actually fairly articulated for a character that's covered in so much of this stuff. If we just lift this up right here, you can see, for example, there's his articulation for his arms. It's your basic McFarlane rounded hinge, double jointed elbows there. It's all the basic points that we're used to for both arms. And then underneath here, if we just lift this up, you can actually see that articulation point. And if it wasn't for all of these ragged robes that he's wearing, he would actually get an absolute metric butt ton of articulation. But when you put all these robes back on him and then try to articulate him, you will find that you're not going to get quite as much as you would have. But still, that's actually, for being covered in this much stuff, that's actually quite impressive. And you'll notice that because his robes open up, you can get him into, you know, that's a good lopsided T-pose, I suppose. There, now it's a T. Kind of. Down here below the belt, same as always. That's what he's got. And the question is, that's okay. Could be better. Knees double jointed, ankles, rounded hinge, pivot, and a piece of toe articulation. So I would say about this Scarecrow, not a bad figure. Not my favorite take on the character. I think Todd did a pretty good job with it, although I do wish that even though it looks neat, fluorescent green, like it's interesting looking, I would have rather him just been the usual browny beige color as he's supposed to be in the source material, because it's weird to see Scarecrow in these sort of bright fluorescent-y colors. And next we have Batrocitus. He's a vile mix of Batman and Atrocitus. And this guy's only appeared in but a few panels in Dark Knight's Death Metal. But since Todd has this gold mine of being able to make Batman variants, which classically and historically sell very well, why the heck not make him? This fellow's lantern's cool because it's actually a little bit translucent. Some light makes its way through it. You got that red lantern symbol there on the top, and this can actually be used for the Atrocitus figure that didn't come with a lamp. One of the cool things about this figure is that it's got that neat texture all over it, and I really wish that Hal Jordan and John Stewart had been made more like this. I kind of hope that he decides to redo those characters in more this sort of style. The Batrocitus emblem on the chest here actually is really tidy. You can see how it's supposed to be like a lantern and a bat. They did a pretty sweet job on his face too. I feel like the teeth could have been painted a little bit neater, but those little lines on the side of his head, they've been stamped on there properly, and the sculpt looks just fine. This figure is pretty big, but he is also pretty darn articulated for the size of what he is. The pauldrons, obviously, if you want to get him into some kind of a flight pose, they're definitely going to get in the way, but he has all of the typical points of articulation for a McFarlane figure. That's what his double jointed elbows do, so it's, you know, you're looking at something better than 90 degrees. Gigantic, round, hingely wrists. Ball-jointed head sculpt having plenty of articulation, even being able to tip his head back quite a bit so that you can get him into a flight pose. Torso actually able to bend enough to look down, as well as kind of all around. You will find that the waist for Batrocitus is pretty much a moot articulation point, so any posing is going to have to come from up here, because the waist doesn't really do a lot. Down here, though, well, this is what we got, and this right here, I'm okay with this amount of leg articulation like that. Again, as always, I do kind of wish that it went out more, and it doesn't. Crunch the double knees up, yoink the rounded hinge, pivot, and toe. So that's Batrocitus. A character that I don't think very many of us knew we wanted, but then when you see it in person, you're like, yeah, that's a really cool figure. Yeah, I think I will take that home. And next up and lastly, we have Dark Flash. Now, because there were so many Dark Flashes chasing Jay, Barry, Wally, and Wallace, this is just one of them. I'm sure that there will be variants. Look, the trading card actually has 3 different head sculpts, which, mercy me, means it'll be just like the Groblins. Fear not. Eventually they'll probably all come out in some kind of crazy 3-pack. Anywho, this guy has his own unique to the character sculpt, which is cool, which means Todd put some actual money into this guy, and the paint apps are reasonable. They're not great, they're reasonable. But I'm always happy to have more people in the Flash family, good guys or bad guys. It is a tidy looking figure though. The face sculpt looks really nice, and you know, it's supposed to look kind of grobbly and yucky, so I think that this looks actually really good. The paint apps aren't perfect, but I think it kind of suits this figure. The chest lightning bolt, it's inlaid, and it's as tidy as it's gonna be. I believe the arms have some sort of a wash to them. I don't think they're just molded in this color. I mean, even though it's possible to add different colors to the mold, they've definitely just been painted this way. If you're someone who is just a Flash fan, I think that he's going to look really cool in your Flash figure display because they've done a pretty good job on this guy. And he actually is really, really articulated for what he is. I mean, look at that torso. That torso has a fantastic range of motion. And of course you've got the waist, and this waist is not useless. It is not wasted. Oh, that's dumb. And then you've got the head sculpt, which, yeah, has a nice free range of motion. The shoulders here have plenty of articulation because remember, you have these here sockets, and they've actually made space for the arms to move right in. So yeah, I like these very much. You got your bicep swivel, it'll be 360. You got your arms, both of them are going to crunch up. Yeah, that's pretty good. Kind of big, bulky, ugly elbows. I don't complain about that too much. I know some people really hate that. And then of course you've got the wrists, rounded hinges that they've been sculpted to actually look like the rest of the body, which is cool. Down here, whoop. Whoa, did you hear that? Well, his actually click. He's got a clicky groin. They don't always have that. Some aren't as loud as that. That's what he's got down there, of course. Got the ratcheted groin, and that goes out a bit more than I thought it was going to. I really do wish that they got more motion, though. And I keep saying that, but that is definitely something that I feel would be a beneficial piece of articulation. You've got his double-jointed knee, and you've got his ankles sculpted and made to look like the rest of the suit. Yeah, I mean, these figures, I mean, they have all the same articulation points. Really, the end question is not, do they have these points? It's how useful are they? So for any running Flash character, the question is, can you get him into a good running pose? And we can see that, yes, we can. Definitely we can get this guy into a really good running pose. And of course, there's these lightning bits right here. Let's just attach them to the figure here. I probably like these lightning attachments better than probably any others that I've seen, to tell you the truth, because I got to show you this. It actually opens up so that it fits directly around a limb like this. And this is a much better idea. This is a really good progression in comparison to having the Flash's bits just plug into the body with holes in the limbs. I never liked that with that first Flash figure. So what do I think about all 4 of these McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse figures? Well, I've came out the other end of this review actually really liking them. If I had to leave just one on the pegs, it probably would have been Scarecrow. If I had to say which one I actually like the best, I'm gonna say it's in between Batrocitus or Dark Flash. But I think that they're all pretty good figures. And remember, we live in an age where Marvel Legends, at least in Canada, are going up to $35 a figure. These guys are still $10 cheaper, and they pretty much all have their own individual sculpts. Not every figure from McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse is an absolute banger, but usually if the figure isn't super great, they're still usually pretty darn good. 2022 for McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse has been, so far, a fantastic year, and we've still got more time to go. So bring it on, Toddy boy, let's see what else you got. Anyway, that's my thoughts and opinions. Hopefully you found this video to be an interesting, useful waste of time, and I'll see you with the next one. Have a DC day, everybody, and take care.